Hi guys, my story is not about how I was wronged or anything. It's actually mostly about how my husband Nate was wronged by his mother Bianca. And I was the one who ended up getting back at Bianca for what she did to my husband. Sit tight and I will tell you what happened. Nate had been with Bianca and his grandfather ever since he was born. He never knew who his grandfather was, and Bianca didn't have many answers anyway. She was not very young, but super broke. Bianca and Nate were actually under Nate's grandfather's care since he was a rich man. After he died, he left a small portion of his money to Bianca while leaving the most to Nate. In the beginning, I didn't know why his grandfather did that. I asked Nathan, "Why did your grandfather leave you most of his assets instead of his own daughter? Your mom is his own child, so maybe she expected to get 50-50." "Actually, no. Mom wanted to get all of the inheritance. From what my aunt tells me, she wasn't happy that her father left most of his assets to me." "Why did he do it, though?" "My grandfather did this because he knew my mom was not parent material. She would always choose to live a luxurious life over doing what was right for me. He was afraid she would spend all his money on stupid things and then raise me in poverty or leave me to fend for myself." He was worried about your well-being, I guess." "Yes, he was. And he was right about Mom. After all, she did steal my inheritance and abandon me after my grandfather died. She never thought twice before abandoning her 8-year-old son who had no one else to look after him." You read that right, guys. Bianca illegally sold all the assets under Nate's name and fled with her then boyfriend. She didn't have the authority to sell or take anything for herself, so what she did was a crime. The executor of Nate's grandfather actually did his best to find her, but she couldn't be traced. It's like she erased her past and started a new life for herself somewhere far away. Nate never saw or heard from his mother again. He was taken in by an aunt who happened to be Bianca's cousin. She raised Nate like her own child and gave him the motherly love that my husband deserved. Nate never forgave his mother. What she did was absolutely horrible, and I was appalled by it too. I was furious when I heard this story from my poor husband. He could have had a great life because his grandfather had left him a lot of assets, but his selfish mom stole it all from him. Nate did have someone raising him, but his aunt was not very well off. Additionally, he had to deal with the mental effect of having his only parent abandon him as a child. I am proud to say that despite everything, my husband did good for himself. He worked hard and got a great job. While he wasn't able to buy us a house or take us on expensive vacations, he did make some great investments and savings with what he earned. My husband and I had a perfect life together. We lived fairly comfortably and had 2 children. We were just about to buy a house when our lives changed forever. Nate was diagnosed with cancer and only survived a year after his diagnosis. We put everything on hold and tried our best to get him the treatment he needed. Unfortunately, it was too late. We had almost exhausted our resources and couldn't afford expensive treatment. At that time, I started to feel renewed anger towards Bianca. If she hadn't stolen from my husband, maybe we could have given him better treatment and helped prolong his life. No matter how hard I tried to find Bianca, I just couldn't get hold of her. One day, I broke down in frustration and said, "If only we could find your stupid mother, we would have had money to take you somewhere with better treatment facilities." "I know that's not an option, Olivia. It's okay, though. I guess I'll never see my lost money again." "This is so unfair, Nate. I wish I could help you more." "Just promise me one thing, Olivia. If you ever find my biological mother, sue the life out of her. I want her to face justice even if I am not here to see it. I promise I won't let her go, Nate. I will make her pay." I made that promise, and I was serious about it. In my mind, I knew that if I ever found that stupid woman, I would sue her for eternity. But I never thought that I would get that opportunity fairly easily. Bianca came into my life right after my husband died. She actually came to his funeral. No, I never invited her. I don't know how she found out either, but right when I arrived at the funeral venue, I saw Bianca sitting there with a nonchalant look on her face. I immediately saw red and stalked over to her in rage. She stood up and faced me when I stopped in front of her. I just couldn't keep the venom in my voice when I said, "Excuse me, who invited you here?" "Oh, maybe you don't know me, but I am actually your mother-in-law, although I am sure my son had told you that." "I know who you are. What are you doing here, Bianca?" "What do you mean, why am I here? I'm here to get my inheritance." "What inheritance, Bianca? I don't get you." "The inheritance that my son has left me in his will, of course. What else will I be talking about?" I was in complete shock and disbelief at what my mother-in-law was telling me. She was saying that she had expected my husband to leave her money in his will. Mind you, guys, this woman hadn't seen my husband in 8 years and blocked him every time he tried to find her. She even fled to another state to avoid giving my husband money. It was horribly entitled of her to think that my husband would ever leave her anything. I was so in disbelief that I said, "Wow, Bianca, did you really think that my husband would leave you anything in his will?" "Of course, he would leave me something in his will. I'm his mother. I should be getting a part of whatever assets he had." "You abandoned my husband when he was 8, Bianca. What makes you think that you have any right to call him your son?" "Don't try to sass me, woman. You might be his widow, but I am his mother. We are related by blood. He should have left me something in his will." "Not a chance, Bianca. He didn't leave you anything in the will. You have no right to show up uninvited to my late husband's funeral and make stupid demands like this." "Don't you dare talk to me like that. You can't kick me out. I have the right to be here. I'm his mother no matter what." Bianca was getting on my nerves. I really wanted her out of the place because I didn't want her to spoil Nate's funeral. I knew that Nate wouldn't have wanted his mother to be present at the funeral anyway, so her mere presence was actually irritating me to no extent. I was angry and just wanted her to leave. I said in an angry voice, "No, you don't have any kind of rights as far as my late husband is concerned. There was a reason why you weren't invited in the first place." "Oh, please, Olivia. Do you think I don't know why you didn't invite me to my son's funeral?" "So, you do know why you were not invited?" "Of course I know why I wasn't invited. You didn't want me here because you wanted to take my rightful share of my inheritance. You didn't want me to know that my son has left me some inheritance." "You don't want to share Nate's estate with me. You want it all for yourself, so you were trying to kick me out before the will has been read." The audacity of this woman was absolutely astounding. She was accusing me of things that she had done to Nate. Bianca had forgotten that she had been someone who stole Nate's inheritance and ran away with her stupid boyfriend. Now she was back, but only to get more inheritance from her son. I was boiling with anger and about to physically drag her out of the stupid place, but I suddenly remembered something very important. It suddenly occurred to me that this was the prime time to get Bianca apprehended for stealing Nate's money. So, instead of kicking her out, I looked at my lawyer to see if he had caught on to what I was thinking. To my surprise, my lawyer was smiling at me. His expression confirmed that he knew exactly what I was thinking. We had Olivia caught, and kicking her out wouldn't be a smart thing to do. Instead, I needed to let her stay and actually see what was in the will. So, I looked at Bianca and said, "Well, if you are so confident about this, you can stay, Bianca. I won't be called a greedy woman who stole her mother-in-law's inheritance, so you can stay for the will reading and see if Nate has left anything for you." "Ah, I did scare you, Olivia. It's good to know that you have come to your senses. I was contemplating going to court if you kicked me out." You won't have to go to court for that, Bianca. However, I can't say the same for other things. Anyway, you can stay and see for yourself if Nate has left anything for you. I held my tongue and went through the funeral. I wanted there to be peace, at least for my late husband's sake. Even though he wouldn't have wanted his mother at his funeral, I'm sure he knew why I didn't kick her out. I am also pretty sure that he would approve of what I had in mind for Bianca. Bianca looked super smug and was yawning through the funeral service like she was bored or something. I didn't expect her to have any motherly feelings of grief for her son, but I had expected her to at least show some respect for a dead man. Turns out she couldn't even do that. I had to stop myself from walking up to her and kicking her to the moon. Thank God I seated her right at the back so that there was a lot of distance between me and her. The funeral service went on and I concentrated on that without letting Bianca distract me too much. When everything was finally wrapped up, I think only Bianca was the one who didn't cry even a bit. I didn't expect her to anymore, since she is nothing but a cold woman with a heart of stone. So again, I tried my best to control myself and not let her behavior send me into a frenzy. After most people were gone, the lawyer asked us to go and wait in the room that had been assigned for this. Bianca walked briskly in front of me while I stayed behind and texted the lawyer. We coordinated the details of our plan while Bianca stayed oblivious to what we were planning to do to her. She was too busy thinking about what she would do with the money that she would get from Nate's will. I wasn't even mad anymore because I knew karma was coming for her. Bianca and I went to the room and briefly waited for the lawyer to come back. The lawyer soon arrived and started to read the will. To only Bianca's surprise, Nate left everything to me and our infant son. Bianca wasn't given anything, much to her dismay. Once the will was read, she immediately got up from her chair and said, "This is impossible. My son should have left me something in his will." "Looks like you were wrong, Bianca. Nate didn't even mention you in the will." "Shut up, Olivia. You must be behind this. I won't accept this stupid will. I will go to court and sue you and—" "There is no need for that, Mrs. Bianca. There is something that my client, the late Mr. Nate, had left for you as well." Bianca was getting all worked up when she found that her name was not mentioned in the will. She was starting to throw a tantrum and threaten me about going to court. Can you imagine this woman's stupidity? She was threatening me with the court, as if I was scared of her stupid lawsuit. This entitled woman was really something else. Anyway, I made fun of her just to rile her up a little, but the lawyer gave her some good news that instantly made her transform back to her smug self. She actually smirked at me and said, "Did you hear that, Olivia? Wait, Mr. Lawyer, say that again so that we can all hear what you said." "I said that the late Mr. Nate has left you something too. Actually, Mrs. Olivia knew about it as well." "Ah, looks like I was right about my son, Olivia. He does have something for me too, and you were trying to keep me from getting my inheritance." "Wow, congratulations, Bianca. I guess I couldn't really stop you from getting what's rightfully yours." "The truth cannot be hidden for long, Olivia. Now, I will finally get my son's assets and have an even better life than before. I can't wait to take my share while you lament the money you lost to me." Bianca laughed and smirked at me. This absolute narcissist actually enjoyed thinking about how she won over me. She liked knowing that she was taking away money from me. She's just an awful human being. But her smirk was about to melt away into a look of shock very soon. She was jumping with joy on hearing that Nate had left her something, but she had no idea how badly Nate's parting gift would end up messing up her life. She was still oblivious and excitedly told the lawyer, "Oh God, I can't wait to know what my son's left me. Tell me right now." "A little patience, Mrs. Bianca. I'm getting to that part. This might come to you as a shock because it involves a lot of money." "Really? Oh God, that is great news. I never knew that my son was this rich. He really did the right thing by leaving me lots of money. I'm his mother after all. That is why you didn't want me at the funeral, right, Olivia? What can I say, Bianca? It is a lot of money. What Nate left you is actually worth millions, so... Did my son leave me something worth millions? My day literally couldn't get any better. Tell me what he's given me. Mr. Lawyer, I'm sure I can handle the shock. Very well then, Mrs. Bianca. I'm happy to inform you that your son has left you a lawsuit that is worth at least $3.5 million. You are the one who has been accused in the lawsuit. Just like I had predicted, Bianca's smirk had melted away and turned into a look of shock. She was expecting to actually receive money or assets worth millions. Instead, she was told that Nate had left her a lawsuit. I don't know if she had any idea about a lawsuit that was pending against her. She has effectively cut off all contact with family and friends so that no one could inform Nate or the authorities about her whereabouts. She also changed her surname and got married to her boyfriend and pretended that Nate didn't exist. Any method of communication between her and Nate had been blocked by her, so that he would never be able to find her. Bianca had been successful in remaining hidden until she actually showed up at Nate's funeral and got herself trapped. I guess she had thought that Nate had dropped the lawsuit or something, but no, she had just been informed that Nate did sue her and got the paperwork done. Because we didn't know how to find her, we couldn't do anything. Now that she was back in town, she was going to face the music. Bianca looked extremely shocked and stammered while saying, What? What are you talking about? Is it really necessary for you to feign ignorance, Bianca? You should know that there is a lawsuit against you, or maybe you hadn't expected a poor child to sue you for illegally taking away his inheritance. I didn't do anything like that. That is all a lie. We have papers to prove that you had illegally sold your father's assets, which were actually your son's rightful inheritance. After that, you fled and tried to escape justice. Shut up! You don't know anything! Who told you all this? My father was the executor of your father's will, Mrs. Bianca. After his death, I took on Nate's lawsuit at his insistence. You can't take me to court for this? That was a long time ago. My son's already dead. That's where you're wrong, Bianca. Your son might be dead, but the lawsuit isn't. And as his legal heir, I will be the one who will get the $3.5 million out of you. Looks like I will be keeping all the money after all. No, you will never catch me. I'll fly back to my home right now. There is no way you will get so much money from me. I don't think that's an option for you anymore, Mrs. Bianca. That's because the cops are already here to arrest you. We will make you pay what my client was owed, and you won't escape this time. Just as we had finished talking, the cops showed up at the funeral home to arrest Bianca. She cried and pleaded with them, making up all sorts of stories about how she was innocent and all. But the cops already had enough information on us and arrested her on the spot. She was able to make bail after getting her husband involved, but now there was no way she could escape justice. With what money I got from Nate's will, I used it all up to find and bring Bianca to justice. She did try to flee, among other things, but was swiftly put into jail. After a reasonably long trial, Bianca ended up owing me way more money than we had expected. The judge wasn't happy at all and actually slapped Bianca with the child abandonment case that my husband's aunt had filed against her. She was in deep trouble and actually ended up going to jail briefly before. She lost almost all her money and assets in order to pay me back the money that she owed Nate. The day the verdict was delivered was rather bittersweet for me. Me and my kids are doing pretty well now that we're practically swimming in money. I have set up trust funds for my kids and bought a new house to have a permanent roof over our heads. The rest has been put away into savings and investments. I do feel very sad sometimes that Nate couldn't see a cent of what he was owed. But I think he would be happy to see his family doing well. After all, he loved us more than anything. As for my dear mother-in-law, she is actually on the streets since her husband divorced her. She has no money and is struggling to make ends meet after losing everything she had wrongfully taken from Nate. Hi guys, this is Laura, and you will learn about what my nasty husband did to me. He had a great plan of leaving me and marrying his beloved mistress. That was foiled in the end by none other than yours truly. But before I tell you what he did, let me tell you how I discovered his affair. Jake and I were married for a little over a year when I discovered his affair. Jake and I met through mutual friends and started to date pretty soon. At that time, Jake was actually a great man and treated me with love and respect, so I had no idea that our marriage would end up in a disaster. The problems in our marriage started when Jake's childhood friend Tiffany came back home after staying abroad for a few years. I never thought she would be a problem until I actually met her. At a dinner we had together, I saw her being too clingy and touchy with my husband. I was immediately uncomfortable and told her so, and that's when she smirked at me and said, "What makes you think you have any right to tell me what to do?" "I'm Jake's wife, so you will respect my boundaries in my home, Tiffany. He is not single anymore." "Oh, please, Laura. The only reason he was single for you was because I broke up with him and left the country." "Wait. What? You two dated in the past? Jake, why didn't you tell me about it?" "What did you want me to say? Yes, we dated and ended things when she moved abroad." "You know what, Laura? Jake would have been mine if I hadn't moved. I came back to him, but I see that he is already married. Still, it can never be too late, right? So you better watch out." Tiffany's words didn't sit right with me. It had already been 2 months since she came back, and that was the first time she was meeting me. Before this, Jake met with her alone and with friends, and I was now getting uncomfortable with that as well. Jake sussed Tiffany, but didn't actually put any boundaries between them. After Tiffany left, Jake and I had a big fight about this, and later he promised to put some boundaries between them and stay away from her. I was happy with the outcome because I hadn't expected my husband to sneak out and cheat on me with her. At home, he was pretty loving with me, so I had no doubts. I only found out about the affair when I came across 2 plane tickets to Hawaii. Guess whose name was on those tickets? You're right. It had Jake and Tiffany's names on it. I was immediately hit with the wave of reality that maybe Jake was cheating on me. I immediately started to cry and called Jake to scream at him. Jake didn't even sound affected and told me that we would talk when he got home. I waited for him, all the while crying and panicking. Jake did come home, but he brought along his mistress, Tiffany. It all felt so surreal that I didn't know what to say. So Jake and Tiffany did all the talking. "So you found out about our relationship. Good to know, Laura. I was wondering about how to tell you." "Yeah, it was unavoidable, you know. Jake and I are meant to be together." "How could you do this to me, Jake? I thought you loved me." "I did love you, but Tiffany's more important to me. She always has been." "I already warned you, Laura. You should have listened to me. Jake would always belong to me. Now, he's taking me on a grand vacation to Hawaii to make up for all the lost time." "You are really taking her to Hawaii, Jake? How can you be so calm about this? What about me and our marriage?" I was crying hard while Jake and Tiffany seemed to be absolutely made of stone. My husband wasn't even apologetic. In his most robotic voice, he told me to just deal with it and said, "I need you to vacate my house before I return. I don't want to hear any excuses from you, Laura. By the time I come back, you will be leaving my house." "Yes, you already mooched off your husband enough, Laura. It's time for you to move out and find someone else. This one is mine now." "That's right, Tiffany. I'm yours now, dear. Don't worry, I will end my marriage right away and marry you." We better do that soon, Jake. I'm tired of being just your girlfriend. I want to marry you too. This is the start of our new life, Tiffany. I'm already taking you on a grand vacation. When we return, my stupid wife will be gone. You heard that, Laura. I really do expect you to be gone from the house when I come back. I stood there with a pretty shocked expression on my face as Jake and Tiffany were lost in their own world. Now that they had been caught, they were pretty open about their affection for each other. There was no hiding anymore. They even kissed right in front of me. I hadn't expected this at all. I thought maybe Jake would show some remorse, but no. He was just boasting about his affair instead of begging for forgiveness. And he was ordering me to leave the house before he came back with his mistress. The two had an elaborate plan about how they would start a new life in my marital home. My head was spinning with everything that was happening right in front of me. I was literally starting to feel nauseous because of what my husband was saying and doing. Since Jake and Tiffany weren't looking like they would stop any time soon, I simply said, "Fine, I will empty this house before you come back. You want to divorce me, right, Jake? I will let you do that as well." "I see that you're not putting up a fight. Good to know, Laura. Fighting won't do you any good anyway." "Yes, Jake, I know that already. Besides, I'm not someone who shamelessly stays in a marriage after being cheated on. So you don't have to worry, Jake. I will not pressure you to stay with me." I said those words and left the room crying. I immediately started to pack my stuff because staying in the master bedroom would be impossible for me. I needed some space to come to terms with everything and to find a way out of this mess. I cried all night, curled up on the floor or the guest room. I could hear Jake talking on the phone with Tiffany and making plans about how they would start their new life. They were taking a grand vacation to Hawaii for 2 weeks and would come home together to my marital house. It was all planned out. I felt sick and cried my heart out at what my life had become. When the next day came, I was feeling much better. The grief had actually subsided and was replaced with shimmering anger. You know, after you have a good cry, you start to look at things from a fresh perspective. My ego and respect were hurt, and instead of being sad, I should be feeling angry. Jake's attitude towards this whole thing wasn't helping either. He was still as nonchalant as ever and not willing to show any remorse. He left for work early and didn't even have breakfast at home. I was pretty sure he was out with his mistress having breakfast before the office. Just picturing them together made my blood boil. I sat at the dinner table thinking about what I should do now. Jake was clear that he expected me to leave his house. Now, this house was actually a gift from his father, Fred, to us for our wedding. We were so happy to start our new life in a new home. Look how my life turned out later. Now my husband was planning a fresh life in this new home with his mistress. It was like a slap across my face. I was expected to empty out the house while Jake would stay in the house he got for free. That was something I wasn't willing to let him do, so I called my father-in-law and told him that we needed to talk. He seemed confused and said, "Hey, Laura, what's the matter? You call pretty out of the blue." "There's something I need to talk to you about, Fred. It's kind of important. I hope I'm not interrupting." No, I can take a call now. Go ahead, tell me what happened." "It's about your son, Fred. He betrayed me in the worst way possible." I started to tell Fred everything that Jake and Tiffany did. I told him how I found out, what they said, and even Jake's insistence on having me out of the house while he moved in with his mistress. Fred lent me a sympathetic ear and patiently listened to me cry and recount what happened. He remained silent after I was done, and then he said in a very angry voice, "I'm so sorry, Laura. I can't believe my son would do this to you. He is absolutely a horrible, shameless man." Believe me, Fred, I'm regretting ever marrying him now. I gave him so much. And now he's abandoning me after cheating on me. I don't know what to do anymore. Tell me something from your heart. Do you wish to continue this marriage, Laura? No, Fred. I don't want to continue this marriage. The trust is broken already. I don't want someone who was so cruel to me. Fred remained silent again, probably thinking about something. He was very happy for us when we got married and always insisted that I was like his own daughter. I knew he loved both me and Jake, so the end of our marriage probably devastated him. But there was nothing I could do. I wasn't sacrificing my self-respect to stay with a cheater who didn't want me anymore, so I decided to divorce him just like he wanted. Fred seemed to have accepted this fact and said, "Very well, Laura. If you wish to leave him, I will help you do just that. And I have a plan about exactly what you are going to do about the house." It's okay, Fred. I'll leave the house. I know I can't win here anymore. Who said you can't win here, my dear? You have a lot of cards up your sleeve and you need to just play them right. I'm glad you called me before doing anything because I know just how you can get back at him. What plan do you have, Fred? The house my son lovingly calls his is not actually in his name, you know. What Fred said was completely new information for me. Jake always kept talking about how the house actually belonged to him since his father intended it to be that way. I was never told that Fred never ended up transferring the deed to his name. I was surprised by this and said, "Go, Fred." What? Are you sure about that? I am the one who gifted that house to him, Laura. That house was always meant for the two of you. It wasn't just meant for him. It's funny that I never got around to transferring the house to Jake and your name. But Jake told me that the house was already in his name. I don't know why he gave you the idea, Laura. Perhaps so that he could kick you out whenever he felt like it. Jake was actually the one who told me to hold up the deed transfer. I didn't know what his problem was. I guess he wanted it to be in my name so that you don't get to keep half in a divorce? God, my son really did plan this like a psycho. So that was another thing Jake was lying about to me. My husband is one of the worst human beings that I had the misfortune of knowing. I was also pretty mad at myself that I wasn't able to gauge his character correctly. I can't believe this, Fred. I married a monster. I am so ashamed of myself for ever loving him. This is just bad. Believe me, Laura, I'm also ashamed of myself for raising such an imbecile like my son. But don't worry, I won't let him get off easy. I will help you get some revenge against him. How do we do that, Fred? Listen to me, Laura. Jake wants you out of the house, right? So you will vacate the house, but you will also do something that he wouldn't expect. It was then that Fred told me about his elaborate plan against my husband. My stupid husband has tried to play us both dirty, but he has another thing coming now. Fred was a godsend for me, and I was actually thanking God that he was my father-in-law. He was super angry at Jake, especially because his mom had cheated on him and took him to the cleaners in the divorce. So he held a grudge against cheaters. I don't know why Jake thought that his father would forgive him. I guess he thought he would get special privileges as his son? Nope. He wasn't going to get any, actually. Fred was completely on my side. After listening to Fred's plan, I was actually a little happy and excited. His plan was foolproof, and it was also super profitable for me. Fred was all on board with me getting revenge and wasn't going to let things go just because Jake was his son. It was after talking to him that I felt a sense of relief. He was helping me in the best way possible. Since Fred and I already had a plan in our minds, I didn't bother with harassing Jake at all. He had a gala time coming and leaving the house whenever he wanted. Even Tiffany came along sometimes to help him pack and plan their grand vacation. It was all fun and games for them, as they not so subtly laughed at me. They were also sure about reminding me to pack my stuff and leave before they came back. Oh, I was going to leave, but I would also leave behind a surprise. They would both find out after they came back from their little honeymoon or whatever. Soon, their time to go to Hawaii arrived. Jake left the home, saying, "I better not see your face when I come back, Laura. You have plenty of time to move out. I don't want any excuses." "I will move out and empty out the house, Jake. You won't find any mark of me in this place. Don't worry. I have no interest in fighting. I have better things to do." "Whatever, Laura. I'm not interested anyway. What I do know is that I better not see you around, or else I will throw you and your things out on the streets myself." "Believe me, Jake, you won't have to waste so much time and energy on me again. I'm done. I will leave, and you will never see me in this house again." Jake gave me a smirk and then left. I was burning with anger, but also laughing inside my head when I imagined his sorry face when he found his surprise after coming back. I didn't hear from Jake again. He was having a good time with Tiffany and uploading pictures with captions like "New Beginnings" and "Finally Free." His comment box was turned off, probably because people started to write some nasty messages there. Jake and Tiffany were absolutely shameless, but of course they would pay for it all. I moved out of the house and into an apartment that Fred got me. Yeah, he was paying the rent on that as well. What can I say? He's rich while I'm not. Rent and lawyer money would be too much for me together. So Fred graciously helped me out. He was also in the process of getting me more money in another way. I did have to do some work for it, but it was all worth it in the end. I moved into a new apartment and filed for divorce while Jake was away. Jake and Tiffany were blissfully unaware of what was going on back home. Fred never bothered confronting him because he didn't want to ruin our plan. Once Jake and Tiffany's time was up, they returned from Hawaii. I wish I could see the look on Jake's face when he went home and found our surprise for him. I bet he absolutely freaked out. When he did call me, his voice confirmed it for me. He was angry and panicky. He said, "What the hell is going on, Laura? Why are there other people in my house? There are even workers who are ripping the house apart. What is going on?" "Oh, hi, Jake. Did you have a nice trip?" "Shut up and tell me what's going on in my house. Where are you?" Jake was being extremely impatient, and I would have sympathized with him if he hadn't cheated on me. He deserved to see his precious house being taken over by strange people. I wish I was there to see his face, but my imagination was enough for that, and I started laughing at the image instantly. Jake was annoyed by my reaction as well, and that's when I said, "I'm not in the house, as you can see. You wanted me to empty out the house, and so I did, Jake." "But who are these people? What have you done, Laura? They're telling me that they own my house, and it has been sold already." "That's because they're right, Jake. I moved out like you wanted. And I also sold the house that you treasured. Consider this a payment for messing with me and betraying me." Jake was stunned into silence, just like I was when he had revealed his affair to me. He had a nice time talking and laughing at me along with his mistress. Well, guess what, guys? He wasn't laughing now. And his mistress wasn't going to get him out of trouble. He was in a deep mess that he created by himself. If you're confused about what I did, let me tell you. I sold the house on state insistence. Since he lived in another city, he made me arrange the sale along with the real estate agent. I looked after the entire thing, and Fred only flew here to finalize the papers and close the deal. He got a handsome amount from the sale as well. So Jake's house had been sold already. The new owners were redecorating the place before they moved in. I was still laughing about the entire thing when Jake freaked out and said, "What? You sold my house? Who gave you the authority to sell my house?" "Oh, trust me, Jake. I was well within my rights to sell the house, and it fetched a handsome amount too." "What? You even took all the money? You witch! I will sue you. All that money is mine, and you had no right to sell my house." "I think you're forgetting something important, Jake. The house was never in your name. It was in Fred's name. And he gave me the permission to sell it. He even let me keep all the money." "No, I don't believe that. My father would never allow this. Why would he do this to me?" "Why would he do this? Because he knows that his son is a cheater, Jake. And I think you know what he feels about cheaters." There was another round of stunned silence from Jake. I felt glorious having the ability to shut my stupid husband up like that. Jake was finally getting his just desserts, and I was here for it all. I was the one who broke the news of what happened to his house, and as if things weren't bad enough for Jake, he was told that I took the money from the house sale as well. Fred had actually told me to keep it, and I did. Jake wasn't going to get a penny from that because it was transferred to my mom's name. My mom was holding it for me until my divorce. Jake was in complete disbelief and hadn't expected his plans to go so awfully astray. He was so sure and confident of his plans that he hadn't expected anything to go wrong. His bimbo mistress also hyped him up when she had no real brain in her head. In the end, Jake was left with this awesome gift of nothing. His voice started to shake when he said, "What? You told my dad everything?" "Had you expected me not to, Jake? That's rich of you. Your poor father was so mad and disappointed when he heard what you did. He was the one who made those plans for me, you know." "My father made this plan about the house? How could he do that?" "He could do that because he didn't agree with what his son did." "Guess what, Jake? He is on my side. You will find out once you talk to him. Have fun telling him about Tiffany because he's not happy." "What have you done, Laura? You've destroyed my relationship with my dad and sold my house." "You got what you deserve, Jake. You have been a horrible partner to me and betrayed me. This is my payback to you. Enjoy your life with Tiffany and leave me alone. I have already filed for divorce and the papers will be delivered to your office soon." No, wait, you can't do this. The house..." I hung up on Jake and blocked his number as well. Jake kept calling me and texting me, but never got a reply. Since he didn't know where I was staying, he didn't have a way to catch me. I had also joined a new company that he didn't know about. Jake and I would only see each other at court now. There was no way he was getting back the house or the money from the sale. Jake tried his best to get in touch with me. He tried going to friends who promptly kicked him out because they were disgusted with his actions. He couldn't go to Tiffany's place because she was getting kicked out of her parents' house too. Fred had informed them about the affair and they had been upset by their whole community talking about it. They decided to kick Tiffany out because of this and told her not to come back. So Jake and Tiffany were both homeless and had nowhere to go. They ended up staying with a colleague who let them in. All this information was relayed to me by Fred, who had been in touch with Jake. Jake had been begging his father to forgive him, but Fred wasn't budging. His father gave him an earful and even told him that Jake was dead to him. Jake had been crying and telling everyone how miserable he was. Later, he even ended up having a big fight with Tiffany, after which they parted ways to God knows where. My lawyer had already served him divorce papers, so I didn't care anymore. Jake tried to get back after Tiffany left. He tried begging and pleading, but I held my ground. He only saw me at court appearances, so this wasn't a regular occurrence. Maybe he had thought that his father would forgive him, and he would get my money if he could get me to stay in the marriage. Too bad I left and didn't stop until we were officially divorced. Hello guys, my name's Ella. I'll start off my little story by saying that I'm using fake names that I made up in my mind. I come from a wealthy family, and so does my husband in the story. I have a feeling that this might get recognized, and trust me, I have had enough people coming up to me wanting to know all the juicy gossip. I don't want a repeat of that, so I will refer to myself as Ella and my husband as Ken. Ken and I got married after college because we were in love. We also belonged to the same social standing, so it wasn't a problem for us to get married. Ken managed his father's business while I was a stay-at-home wife. I really won't tell you lies by saying that my married life was horrible. Well, with its small ups and downs, it was actually pretty good. We were married blissfully for 3 years before everything went to hell. I noticed that Ken was starting to withdraw a little from me. When I asked about it, he told me that it was work stress. So, like a good wife, I took extra care of him to ease his stress. Who knew that Ken had been planning to do something horrible to me? I didn't have a clue of what was about to happen to me in my marriage. This all started when my husband made a very weird declaration. When I married him, I knew that he came from a wealthy family and inherited a lot of assets after his father passed away. Plus, he was all set to inherit more wealth from his mother. I also knew that he was extremely possessive over his assets and didn't want to part with them. Imagine my surprise when he sat me down and told me this. Ella, I've been thinking about things for a while. You know that I have over 15 properties in several counties? Yes, you told me about it in the past. What's the matter? So I was thinking about transferring the properties to you. All of them. What? But why would you do that? They are your assets. You don't need to give me anything. Look, I know they're my assets, but we are married now, so you should have some of it too. I already work a good job and don't need the surplus income anyway. Consider the rent money from these properties to be your allowance. I'm still unsure why you're doing this. Aren't you scared that you will lose ownership of your inheritance? Actually, part of the reason is taxes. Since you don't work, you'll be paying less taxes after collecting rent. My job and these properties are making me lose a lot of money in taxes, so this is the best way to avoid that. I was extremely confused and skeptical about Ken's decision. This didn't seem like a good idea to me at all. I mean, his reasons were legit, but I found it hard to believe that he would just give me his assets for free. I was feeling a little suspicious of this entire thing. Mostly, I chalked it up to a prank and just went with what Ken said. After all, I couldn't stop him from signing his properties to me. I really did think that he was joking or pranking me. I was not prepared for my husband to call his best friend Seth to our house the next day. Let me tell you about Seth. He's actually a lawyer who specializes in property laws. He has been my husband's best friend since kindergarten. At first, I thought that he was in on this prank. Then I saw that they were both serious. They sat me down and said, "So, I take it that Ken has told you about his decision? He plans to transfer the house and 15 other properties of his to your name." Come on, guys, is this a prank or something? We are not seriously doing this. This is not a prank or a joke, Ella. I did tell you my reasoning for transferring the properties to you. I intend to follow through with my decision. And that's why I'm here, Ella. I have prepared all the papers so that you know what's going on. Ken is a good husband and doesn't want to keep you in the dark. That's right. I want you to know everything, Ella. You do have to know your assets so that you can collect their rent on time. Seth has already prepared all the documents. I was still pretty much in shock at this whole thing. At this point, both of them had convinced me that they meant business. I did read through the documents and found them pretty legit. Yes, I did have some knowledge of laws. I gave the papers back to Seth and saw that Ken swiftly put his signature on it. I really didn't know what to think. I was honored that Ken trusted me so much and was touched by his love for me. I quickly went to the kitchen to make coffee for all of us. When I was returning to the living room, this is the conversation I heard between Ken and Seth. God, I really didn't think Ella would be so stupid. I mean, I know she's dumb, but not that dumb. How the hell did she think that I would just give her my properties? You should be happy about this. Ella's stupidity made it easy for us to fool her. No one else would buy your bullshit excuse in any way. That is true, Seth. Thank God I married a dumb witch. It was easy to convince her that I gave her my properties. I will leave soon, and after 5 months I'll be back to sue her. I bet her parents will get involved, and I will end up getting a seamless divorce. Yeah, after you get that divorce, you'll be able to marry the girl of your dreams. See? I gave you the right idea to make Ella seem like a fraud. This way, you'll be able to avoid paying alimony. We live in an at-fault state, after all. The case won't even go to court, Seth. I can bet you $1,000 that Ella's parents will give me money and beg me to withdraw the case. Having a fraud case on their daughter will be bad for their image. They will agree to all divorce conditions to save face. And Mom also won't be mad at me for divorcing Ella. We did come up with a great plan, you know. Just that you have to be careful. Don't let Ella find out that you are having an affair. You are leaving to see her after all. Don't worry about that, Seth. I'm not a new player. I will tell Ella that I have a business trip coming, and then I will ghost her for 5 months. Then I will make up some excuses. Ken and Seth kept laughing about their plans while I remained frozen in my spot. I heard every word they said and knew the truth of the situation. My hands were shaking, so I quickly returned to the kitchen to compose myself. I had tears in my eyes and I didn't know what to think anymore. My own husband was cheating on me and planning to trap me in his schemes. No, he didn't love me at all. He didn't trust me blindly. All this was a trap to make me look bad and give him a smooth outlet to divorce me. Guys, I can't tell you how hard it was for me to hold myself together at that point. Still, I didn't want them to see how broken I was. I actually put on a poker face and gave Seth and Ken their coffee. Then I faked a headache and went to my room. I immediately called my mother-in-law to tell her about what was going on. She was a lady of morals and ethics, and that's why Ken was scared about pissing her off. I called Daisy, my mother-in-law, and told her everything. I was literally sobbing while recounting all that happened. Daisy listened to me patiently and then said, "My son has crossed all limits today. After he married you, I thought that he had finally grown some sense. Now I see that I completely failed to raise him right. He is an abomination to me. His father would be rolling in his grave right now." Daisy, what do I do now? I want to confront him and destroy everything around me, but I know that this will be a stupid idea. Of course it will be a stupid idea, Ella. You don't really have concrete proof of anything right now. If you confront him now, he will manage to clear any evidence of his affair. Then he might paint you out to be crazy. That is true, Daisy. It did cross my mind. Trust me, I don't want to stay one more moment in this house anymore. I'm disgusted by Ken. I'm not sad anymore. I'm just super angry. That's good, Ella. You need to be more angry than sad. My imbecile son has played you really bad. You can't let him get away with it. I won't let him get away with this, Daisy. I might be soft-hearted, but I can be vengeful when necessary. I do have a plan, Daisy. It just came to my mind. I'll tell you once I compose myself a little better. Daisy encouraged me to make a plan for revenge. God, I absolutely love this woman. She promised to support me no matter what. I was a little relieved to know that at least someone was on my side. I also informed my own parents to prepare them for what was about to come. They were shocked and super angry as well. While all this was going on, Ken came into our room and said, "Ella, aren't you happy that I transferred my properties to you? See, I love and trust you so much. I'm happy, Ken. I guess it showed me how much you actually love me. I needed to know that. I am glad to know that, Ella. So I have to fly out for some business tomorrow. I have come to tell you about that. I'll be at a ton of meetings and stuff, so you don't have to worry when you don't hear back from me. You won't call at all? How long will you be gone? I'm not sure. I'll try to call, but I can't promise anything. This is an important business trip. I don't want to tell anyone anything until the deals are finalized, so don't tell Mom about this. I want to surprise her. I knew why Ken didn't want me to tell his mother. And I also knew why he didn't give me many details of the trip. In the past, I would have been worried about not knowing everything, but now I don't care anymore. I knew that he was going on vacation with his mistress and there was no business trip. Ken could try and fool me as much as he wanted. I already knew his plans. I wished him well and went back to my work. This time I called a private investigating agency to follow my husband and collect proof of his affair. I also accessed the CCTV footage of our living room to record the conversation Ken and Seth had that day. Yes, we have high-quality cameras and full audio recordings as well. Ken didn't remember that I could easily access footage and save it. He thought that I wouldn't suspect anything, and by the time I find something fishy, the recordings will be automatically deleted. He had no idea how wrong he was. The next morning, Ken left after saying his usual goodbyes. He did keep in touch for a few days, before just disappearing completely. No one could get in contact with him, so he had essentially gone missing. My private investigator later informed me that he was vacationing in another country with his affair partner and was using a different phone number there. He was actually in freaking Europe, having the time of his life and spending our money on another woman. I was fuming. I showed Daisy all the proof, and together we knew what to do. As promised, Ken didn't come back for 5 freaking months. He went on a vacation with his mistress and then was living with her in a different state. He actually bought her a house there, and they were presenting themselves as a happy couple. The more pictures I saw, the more angry I got. All my love for Ken had drained away. Meanwhile, I continued to collect rent money from the properties he signed over to me. They were a bunch of office spaces, so the income was good. As instructed by Ken, I went to all those properties and told them to send me the rent money. They didn't question it since Ken had informed them about a change. I was happy getting an extra income while plotting revenge against my horrible husband. When 5 months were up, he returned, fully prepared with court papers and all. Guys, this man didn't even have the guts to come back home. He sent his stupid friend to come and talk to me. I got an email that I was getting sued by Ken for wrongfully taking rent payments for his client. I didn't reply to it and just informed my mother-in-law about it. That day, Daisy called me to her house along with Ken to talk. I went to Daisy's place and saw them waiting for me. As soon as I walked in, Ken got up from his seat with an angry expression and said, "What are you doing here, Ella? How dare you show me your face after you cheated me out of money?" "Sit down, Ken. Why are you making a fuss? Let's talk about this calmly." "Mom, how can you take her side? She's a thief. I already told you what she has done. She needs to be in jail. And I have already sued her." "I know you sued me, Ken. I got the legal notice in my mail yesterday. Why didn't you come home and confront me? Why hide from me, Ken?" "I didn't come home because I don't want to see your face anymore. You betrayed me, Ella. This is horrible." "Oh, so you didn't come home because I took your rent money? But isn't that what you asked me to do?" "What nonsense, Ella. Why would I ever ask you to do that? I never said anything." "You didn't? Well, let's rewind a little. So you were telling me that you didn't tell me about transferring your properties to me before you left for your little vacation all around the world?" Ken looked a little flustered when I mentioned that. I wasn't supposed to know about the trip with his mistress after all. So he was confused about how I got to know about it. Since Daisy was present and listening intently, Ken was trying hard to keep his expressions neutral and not freak out. He said, "I never said those things, Ella. And what vacation? I was gone for work." "You don't recall anything? Well then, let me make things easier for you to remember. Remember how you and Seth showed me papers that you would let me get your properties? Then you left for work abroad?" "Don't drag Seth into this, Ella. He didn't do anything. You are making up stories. I don't even care, actually. Once you are in court, we will see what happens." "You want me to go to court, Ken?" "Well, I don't think that will happen." "What do you mean, Ella?" Ken seemed to be a little confused and even scared of what I was going to say. I think he was getting onto the fact that maybe I knew something. Daisy was also not looking very pleased and the atmosphere was tense, so I smiled a little and said, "Thank you for the properties, Ken, but I knew all about your plan. I knew that you were trying to trick me so that you could divorce me for financial fraud." "What? No! Why would I do that? This makes no sense." "I also know why you did it. Ken, I believe it's because you want to marry your mistress who accompanied you on your 5-month trip around the world." Ken now looked absolutely dumbstruck at my revelation. He looked at me and Daisy, trying to gauge our reactions. He knew that he had been caught. Still, this idiot tried to defend himself and said, "These are all lies. You're just mad that your scam was caught. Don't make up lies about me, Ella. This is insane." "Are these really lies, Ken?" "Mom, what do you mean? Of course these are lies. I would never do something like this." "Oh, really, Ken? Is she lying or are you?" My mother-in-law is a champion. She straight away called Ken's bull and didn't beat around the bush. She had already seen all the proof and was exceptionally mad at her son. Meanwhile, her son was now shaking and stuttering. He said, "No, Mom, I didn't do anything. Why would you say that?" "Shut up, Ken. I know, and I have seen all the proof of your nasty plan." "That's right, Ken. I showed her the CCTV footage of our home where you and Seth had been laughing about your plan against me. We also know that you had an affair and took her to a grand trip in these past 5 months. We hired a private investigator and found out. We have all the proof we need, Ken. You have been caught red-handed." Ken continued to shake and his eyes went wide when we told him how we knew about his plan. The fact that we had so much evidence against him was something he had never predicted. He was super scared and kept shaking his head, trying to form a reply. It was funny to see him so scared. What made it satisfying was the fact that he had planned for me to react this way. This man was a monster. I said, "What happened, Ken? Cat got your tongue?" I'm sorry, I just..." "Enough, Ken. I don't want any more lies coming out of your mouth. You have crossed all limits of being a horrible human." "I'm sorry, Mom. I don't know what to say. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I just made a mistake." Calling this a mistake would be an understatement, Ken. I can't even look at you right now. Not only did you have an affair, but also tried to scam your own wife. This is just nasty. Mom, I'm sorry. Mom, Ella, I'm so sorry. I will take back the legal notice and I will end my affair. This was all a stupid mistake. This wasn't a stupid mistake, Ken. You meticulously planned this to trap me. There will be consequences for you now. Ken absolutely freaked out and started to beg for forgiveness. He knew that his mother was super angry and she had a lot of power over his future and finances. So Ken was really starting to panic about what we would do to him now. He was right to be afraid because we did have some grand plans in our minds. Daisy said, Oh, Ella is right about that, Ken. We do have some severe consequences for you. I'm actually thinking about disowning you completely and helping Ella take you to court. I am going to ask my father to pull his shares from your company and ask his friends to pull all their shares. And you will get the divorce you wished for after I tell everyone what a cheater you are. No, no, please don't do this, Ella. Please, let's talk and figure out a solution. I'm telling you, I will withdraw the case. I will also end my affair. I'm not happy with that, Ken. I need more. I need you to transfer your 15 properties to me for real. Then I will think about it. Ken more than agreed to do that and left hurriedly. I gave him time because I had more revenge planned for him. I sat there and laughed with Daisy, talking about our grand plan about Ken. He had no idea what we were going to do to him. I will tell you what happened next in a little detail. Ken made Seth actually file fresh papers for the property transfer. He also withdrew the case he had against me. From what my private investigator told me, he seemed to have broken up with his mistress, who then threw a fit and told everyone about it. It was just glorious because it came right after the property transfer was finalized. Once I made sure that the properties were really in my name, I served Ken's divorce papers. He was shocked because he wasn't expecting them at all. He thought that all would be well if he tried to backtrack and undo his wrongs. Sadly for him, the damage was done. Ken tried to fight me for the divorce, but relented when I told him that I had proof of his affair. He had nothing in his hands anymore. Along with getting his 15 properties, I also got a huge chunk of his savings and fat alimony from the divorce settlements. Daisy made him comply with everything by threatening to disown him, so Ken had no option but to comply. In the end, he ended up getting divorced, and Daisy cut his inheritance in half anyway. She was a good mother-in-law and wanted to punish her son for what he did to me. Ken is now living alone since I got our house as well. What can I say? I got a better lawyer than him and had too much evidence against him. So I happily came out of the marriage while getting a lot of money and assets, while Ken lost almost everything in one go. Ken is still pretty upset about the whole thing and has a strained relationship with his family. His friendship with Seth is also coming to an end since everyone knows he helped my ex-husband with his dirty plan. Seth is also facing a lot of backlash, and his office gave him a warning for malpractice. Ken has become extremely alone and is trying his best to cope. He lost a lot of weight and doesn't look happy anymore. He tried to fool around and mess with me, but he got the short end of the stick in return. I hope he learned his lesson and will never try to do this again. Hello, I'm Aria. My husband Leo and I are best friends, and we've been together for about 5 years now, and he is the absolute love of my life. Leo worked at a very high-paying job, and so did one of my cousins. I met him through her, and we hit it off very quickly. My cousin was super happy for us, and so was Leo's sister Emma, who I had later. But his mom, Lena, wasn't happy at all. She actually hated me a lot simply because I wasn't rich like her. Actually, she wasn't a rich woman, so to speak, but she sure did pretend to be one. Lena relied on Leo for her own expenses after she moved in with him as soon as he bought a house. Leo grew up without a father and was always taught that he was the man of the house. Lena raised him in a way that made Leo think he was obligated to take care of his mother and sister's expenses forever. So he let them stay with him and spend his money. Lena even left her job and used the allowance Leo gave her to buy expensive things. Emma, however, took much less from Leo and actually moved out after getting a full ride to her dream college. When he started to date me, his mother didn't like that because she thought I was going to take Leo's money. That was ridiculous because I had my own job and never told Leo to cut his family off. Leo was still paying for all of Lena's expenses and giving her an allowance. I never commented on it because I knew he had been brought up that way. I did have some concerns about saving, but Leo is a smart man and managed to take care of everything, so I never had a problem with him spending money on Lena. But I did have a problem with how he excused and dismissed Lena's behavior towards me. Look, I can give you a host of examples about how Lena made my life a living nightmare. She cancelled date nights, ruined our engagement party by destroying my dress, cut off a leather bag that my husband gifted me for my birthday, destroyed my wedding cake by throwing it on the floor, and even tried to cut off my veil while I was getting dressed. Yes, she has done a lot of things, and every time we confronted her, she played it off as an excuse. After the wedding, she started to escalate her antics. We had numerous screaming matches, and I begged Leo to do something. But Lena always managed to play the victim card and paint me as a bad daughter-in-law who wanted to throw her out and take all of Leo's money. I was tired of her and wanted to find a way to get rid of her for good. The opportunity came to me when Emma sat me and Leo down to talk. She was home for spring break and was staying with us. She sat us down and said, "I have something to tell you guys. Do you remember how Aria's company fired her from her job out of the blue?" "Yes, I have no idea why they thought I was stealing money from them. They literally didn't even have any evidence. They claimed that someone had informed them about me being the thief." "I'm so sorry for that, Aria. I actually know who made those false claims." "Wait, what? Are you telling us that you know how Aria got fired?" "Yeah, you won't like this answer, but it was actually Mom who did it. She made a fake email and emailed Aria's boss. Mom told her boss that she was a thief and brought the money home to boast about stealing it." I was in shock at what I had been told. I lost my job a week ago because I was fired wrongfully. There was a theft at my company and somehow they thought it was me who did it. I was actually in the process of filing for wrongful termination and everything. I had no idea why they thought I was the thief. Turns out it was Lena who set this all up. I had no idea why she would do that. Leo also looked shocked and said, "What are you talking about, Emma? Mom did this?" "Yeah, I borrowed her laptop for some work and found the email. When I confronted her, she accepted it." "Why would she ever do that?" "Well, she thought she would use this as an example to convince Leo that you are a thief and gold digger. Then she would ultimately break up your marriage." Can you believe that, guys? Lena went through all of that trouble to make Leo divorce me, and she did it right when our first anniversary was around the corner. I had no words for this woman. Leo was having a hard time believing it until Emma showed us proof of texts and even the original emails. We were floored and disturbed by what Lena did. At that point, I knew something needed to be done. Leo was already apologizing to me for not dealing with his horrible mother sooner, but I told him that I needed to see some action and not words. The plan that Leo came up with next was actually something I didn't quite expect. He was extremely mad on my behalf and really wanted to avenge me. Leo and I, along with Emma, discussed Lena's behavior and what our next steps would be. It was taking some time, but we finally agreed on what needed to be done. Lena was oblivious to it all. In fact, she went along with her plan of trying to manipulate my husband into leaving me. When I was passing by the study one day, this is what I heard Lena telling Leo. "You need to leave your horrible wife before she ends up stealing your money too." "Mom, you need to calm down a little. I'm tired of having this argument with you already." "She is a thief and gold digger, Leo. She will drain your resources. You need to do something to protect the family." "Look, Mom, I already have a plan to help and protect the family. Someone in this family will leave soon, and I will make sure peace comes back here after that happens." Lena seemed to have taken it as a sign that her precious son was leaving me. She was in a very cheerful mood and no one was acting suspiciously around her. Leo didn't want her to ruin our anniversary and wanted to break some important news to her after the party we had arranged for that day. So we acted normal and let Lena think she got me. Even on the day of the anniversary, Lena wouldn't stop nagging Leo. She kept talking about how much money he wasted on the party and the cake. He got a rather expensive cake for me because he wanted me to have a better experience after having my wedding cake ruined by Lena, even before I could cut it. So he ordered a huge cake for me. Lena complained about that as well. I guess in her eyes, Leo was wasting money on someone who wasn't even going to be his wife for long. Anyway, since Leo didn't listen to Lena about the party, she took matters into her own hands. When my anniversary cake finally arrived in the evening, Lena got to it and smashed the cake by throwing it off the counter. She did it right in front of me while giving me an evil smirk. I remained calm because it wasn't something that I didn't expect to happen. The only thing I said was, "Why on earth would you do that again, Lena? Was smashing my wedding cake not enough?" "You don't deserve such an expensive cake. Besides, I did you a favor, Aria." "Oh yeah? Pray tell me what favor you did me, Lena." "My son told me that one member is leaving this family forever, so there is no need for the cake anymore." "Congratulations on finding out, Lena, but I still don't know how the cake smashing is relevant to what you said." "Are you deaf or just stupid? I just told you that one member will be leaving this house for good. Don't you know what that means, my dear daughter-in-law? I guess they didn't tell you anything." "Oh yeah, they did tell me everything actually. So I do know what that's all about. It is really unfortunate that someone had to be kicked out of the family on this beautiful day, but what can we do? People need to face the consequences of their actions. So you were leaving today, Lena? Or is it tomorrow?" The look of confusion on Lena's face was a little funny. She hadn't expected me to say that. Lena thought that she was being all smug by telling me how she thought I was the one leaving the house, but now I was hinting that she was the one leaving. So she said in a confused voice, "What? Where am I going?" "Oh my God, Lena, you are truly getting old if you keep forgetting things that easily. Didn't you just say one person is leaving the family?" "That's what I'm asking you, Lena. When are you leaving?" "Who said I'm the one leaving? You are leaving the house because my son has finally understood what a gold digger you are." "Oh my God, what gave it away, Lena?" "Did you really think I would let you drain my son's money while I get nothing? I will never allow you to have my son and enjoy his money. Only I have the right to enjoy his money, not you." Wow, you must really love your son's money a lot, Lena. I bet it was you who gave him the idea about kicking me out. "Yes, I was the one who showed him exactly what kind of a woman you are. Thank God my son has finally seen your true face and decided to kick you out. Don't worry, I will also help him find a good divorce lawyer and make sure you get nothing in the divorce." Lena was having a nice time saying these things to my face. She was having a lot of fun thinking that Leo was kicking me out of the family, but she had no idea how much she had misunderstood the situation. Leo hadn't bothered to correct her because he wanted to see how far Lena would actually go, and Lena didn't disappoint by destroying that one thing I really wanted for my anniversary. She ended up destroying my cake once again and then laughing about it. But she wasn't going to get the last laugh. I would be the one who would end her fun and bring her face to face with reality. I smirked at her and said, "You have some high hopes about kicking me out of the house and making my husband divorce me, Lena. But unfortunately, that won't be happening. I think there has been a misunderstanding here. I'm not leaving the family, but you are, Lena." "What on earth are you talking about? Why would I leave the family? You're just lying and making up nonsense to scare me." You think I'm lying and making up nonsense, Lena? How about you ask your son and daughter exactly who is going to leave the family? They are here to break the news anyway. Lena turned around to see my husband and my sister-in-law walking in looking very serious. There was absolutely no fun in their eyes. In fact, the moment they stopped and destroyed the cake, both Leo and Emma looked incredibly pissed off. Leo angrily said, "What is this? What's going on? Who destroyed the cake?" Our dear Lena decided that we didn't need the cake anymore, so she graciously destroyed the cake we custom made for our first anniversary. Mom? What is my wife talking about? Did you really do this? Don't think about lying to me. I have cameras to check what's going on. Leo's tone actually shocked Lena a bit, since she thought that her advice had worked and he was going to kick me out soon. But to her surprise, not only was the anniversary happening, but Leo had ended up splurging even more than usual. And he was actually mad at the fact that the cake he got for me was ruined. Lena was a little confused and annoyed by his reaction. She said in an irritated voice, "Okay, fine. Yes, I destroyed the cake. Happy now?" "Why on earth would you destroy a cake worth $1,000, Mom? What is wrong with you? I don't understand why you would spend so much money on a stupid cake in the first place." "You don't get to decide how much money I spend on the cake, Mom. You had no right to destroy something that I had lovingly bought for my wife." "Come on, Leo. I don't know why you're making such a big fuss. This anniversary party is a sham anyway. Everyone will soon know that you are leaving your useless wife." "Who told you that I'm leaving my wife? I'm not doing that." Now, Lena was even more confused. She looked even more annoyed because none of Leo's behaviors or replies were making sense to her. A few minutes ago, she was gloating to me about how she made my son plan to divorce me and all. But now, Leo was saying that he wasn't going to leave me. Lena got super frustrated and said, "What are you saying, Leo? I thought we agreed to you kicking Aria out from our family for good." "I never agreed to kick out my wife, Mom. I have no idea what you're saying." "Have you lost your memory, Leo? You clearly told me that someone will leave the family and this house, and then we would all be happy again." "Yes, I did say that, Mom. But I wasn't talking about my wife at that time. I was talking about you." The complete look of shock on Lena's face was absolutely hilarious. I was barely holding my laughter in. I looked at Emma, who was also covering her mouth to stop herself from laughing out loud. Lena literally looked like one of the cartoon characters we saw on TV. It was just hilarious. But Lena didn't find anything funny in what Leo said. And Leo was looking at Lena like he wanted to throw her out right then. Lena was still in complete disbelief and said, "What on earth are you talking about, Leo? Are you really planning to kick me out? This can't be true." "Yes, I am planning to kick you out. I have no interest in wasting my time and energy by lying to you, Mom." "You are not making any sense, Leo. Is this a joke? Why would you kick me out?" "Are you telling me that you have no idea why I'm kicking you out, Mom?" "No, I don't understand why you're saying stuff like this. I have done nothing to deserve being kicked out." Lena was really acting like she didn't know what she did wrong. I mean, we had a list of things, but the biggest reason why Leo decided to kick Lena out was because of what she did to get me fired from my job. I guess Lena was confused because she had never expected Emma to actually find proof of her actions and tell us the truth, since we never confronted her before this. Lena had no idea why her son was suddenly so mad at her, so I tried to help her a little and said, "Oh, really, Lena? Have you really done nothing? Maybe you should rack your brain and try to remember what you did." "I don't know what you're talking about. I'm innocent." "So are you going to deny the fact that you purposely got me fired from my job?" I never did that. How dare you accuse me of something like that? Don't spread lies about me, Aria. I will sue you for defamation." "I'm not spreading any lies about you, Lena. We all know that you emailed my work with false information about me just to get me fired. In fact, I can actually sue you if I want to." That is nonsense. Leo, you shouldn't believe a word this witch is saying. She is trying to make up lies because she was caught stealing money from work. You need to kick her out right now, Leo. God knows how much she will steal from us if you give her the chance. Lena was trying to get Leo on her side again. I have no idea why she thought it would be such a good idea to try and make up lies again. Perhaps she thought that I was talking without any proof. After all, I still didn't tell her that we discovered the secret email she had created on her laptop. The laptop that she had stubbornly made Leo buy for her because she was jealous of my birthday gift. Seriously, guys, as I type this out, I am again taken aback by the sheer entitlement of this woman. Lena was truly a spoiled woman, but this time her tantrums weren't going to work. Leo was super mad at his mom and started to shout at her when she tried to manipulate him again. He said, "How dare you, Mom? How dare you lie to us again? Have you no shame? We know it was you who emailed Aria's boss." "I didn't do anything like that, Leo. You have to believe me. Your wife is just making up lies and shifting the blame on me. Just think about this, Leo. If she was so innocent, would her manager really fire her?" I have to give you props for being clever, Lena. You do make some good arguments sometimes. Unfortunately for you, they won't help you now. What do you mean? It means that my manager had actually called me to apologize for firing me without proof. They found the thief, who was someone else, and we have found out that you created a fake email just to get me fired. No, that's impossible. I didn't create any fake emails. We have found the email on your laptop, Lena. We saw plenty of proof, and we also know about your confession to Emma. Lena's eyes went wide when she heard that. She thought that she was successful in blackmailing her daughter to keep silent. But Emma is actually a good person and did what's right. She told us the whole story and allowed us to have the proof. My mother-in-law had no way to lie or hide anymore. She had been caught and she knew that. But instead of being apologetic immediately, she turned to her daughter to scream at her for selling her out. She shouted at Emma and said, "What? You told them about the email, Emma? Why would you do that? Had you really expected me to stay quiet while you destroyed Aria's life? What you did was wrong, and I begged you to come clean, but no, you never did that, and instead you tried to manipulate Leo into ending his marriage. You were insane. How dare you speak to your mother like that? Who gave you the right to call me insane?" She isn't wrong, Lena. You are indeed a very insane person if we went after my job and marriage like that. I did what I did to protect my son. I am pretty sure you would have eventually shown him your true colors anyway. I just sped up the process. Leo, I know I shouldn't have emailed Aria's work, but I did it because I know what kind of a person she is. You have to open your eyes and leave her. Lena was still trying to convince Leo to leave me. Yes, guys, she stood there and did it right in front of us. Thank God the guests weren't there yet. It would have been rather embarrassing for everyone to witness my mother-in-law's delusion. I found her stupidity appalling and funny at the same time. That was probably because I knew what was coming for her. Emma did know about it, so she was shaking her head and sighing deeply. Leo was on the verge of erupting from anger, and Lena's final attempt in making him leave drove him over the edge. He started to scream at Lena and said, "How dare you talk about my wife like that? Aria is nothing but an angel. If there is anyone who deserves to be kicked out to the streets, it's you, Mom." "You are misunderstanding me, Leo. No. Don't try to make excuses, Mom. You have been trying to sabotage my relationship forever. I was praying to God to make you stop, but even God can't help you anymore. I'm done with your antics, Mom." "Son, you were screaming at your poor mother for nothing. This is unfair." "Do you really call this nothing, Mom? You got my wife fired, for God's sake. Don't make me list the things you have done to humiliate my wife and make me leave her." Leo absolutely went mad at his mother and kept reminding her about everything she had done. Lena was in tears because her son wasn't letting up at all. He continued screaming at Lena and didn't listen to a word of her poor excuses. In the end, he finally said what I had been waiting to hear for a while. He said, "I am sick and tired of forgiving you after you repeatedly disrespected my wife. You have crossed the line, Mom, and now you will be facing the consequences. I want you out of my house within 2 weeks. If you don't leave, I will call the cops." "What? You want to kick your poor mother out on the streets? How can you say that, Leo?" "After what you have done, I don't have any respect for you, Mom. Don't try to use sentimental tears on me because it won't work. I want you out. I let you disrespect my wife enough. I should have put my foot down a long time ago. I made a mistake keeping you around, Mom. I won't host you or help you anymore. You are on your own." Lena absolutely freaked out and started to beg for forgiveness. She kept crying and begging us to forgive her. Leo didn't listen to her, and neither did I. In fact, even Emma said that she didn't want to keep in touch with her mother after that day. We were all disgusted by Lena's behavior and were done with her. In a burst of anger, Leo made Lena leave the house that night. She wasn't allowed to set foot back in until our guests had left. Lena, in her rush not to make things any worse, left the house. That allowed us to enjoy our party in peace and not have any more incidents. That night, all three of us also took time to inform our families about what happened with Lena. We didn't want her to spread lies and play the victim card. I'm happy to say that no one took her side. Lena was kicked out of the house just like we had planned. She tried to beg and cry for mercy, which didn't sway us at all. In the end, she was the one leaving the house and not me. My husband even stopped her allowance, so she was forced to take a job and support herself. Meanwhile, I have my job back, and they actually gave me a hefty pay raise and money for emotional damages. I guess they didn't want to avoid a lawsuit. Anyway, I was happy with the settlement and life went back to being normal. Leo is actually saving up the money he used to give his mother so that he can take me on a vacation as another way of saying sorry. Hello guys, my name's Kathy. Now listen, all these are fake names, okay? My husband, Jace, actually works as the CEO of a fairly big company, so I don't want to reveal our real names. I also don't want to lie to you guys and keep you in the dark about this. So I said it right away. This story is not about my mother-in-law, Bella. Rather, it's about my stepmother-in-law, Dina, who is my husband's stepmother. Let me just start with some background info. Dina hates me with all her being. At first, I thought that she just needed to get to know me. Nope, this woman is a horrible person. The reason she didn't like me was because I come from a humble background and do not belong to a high-class family like her. Jace's dad was rich and married Dina after cheating on Bella with her. They split and Jace stayed with his dad because his mom didn't have the means to support him. Bella came from a humble background like me and was unfortunately wrecked in the divorce due to a prenup. Dina hated Bella as well and filled Jace's head with lies about his biological mom abandoning him. Since Jace rarely saw his mom due to her being in a different state, he believed those at first. And when the truth came to light, he tried to reconnect with his mom, but didn't want to let Dina go. Dina actually showed Jace that she loved him. She didn't have any children, but had a niece who she thought would be a perfect match for Jace. It was creepy, and Jace always said no. Dina still held out hope, so my presence in Jace's life was a big problem to her. She always told me, "Don't think that you will stay with Jace for long. Men like Jace will drop their cheap partners as soon as they get a good promotion. It won't match their status, so they will dump their wives to find new ones." I think you're not giving Jace enough credit, Dina. He is a good man and not like the others. He would never do that to me. Oh, we will wait and see. Don't be surprised when you see him around with my niece. They have a great bond and would have been married if you hadn't trapped him. When Dina told me this, I was a little alarmed. I needed to know if something truly inappropriate was going on between Jace and Dina's niece. So I decided to talk to Jace about it. He just sighed and said, "Look, Kathy, Dina did want me to be with her niece, but I was never interested in her. I already told Dina multiple times. I'm so sorry she said those things to you." I don't understand one thing, Jace. Dina has ruined so many of your relationships and even destroyed your relationship with your mom. Still, why do you allow her in your life? I feel guilty about kicking her out. She does love me and was good to me. I don't want to be ungrateful. Plus, Dad didn't leave her anything when he died, so I feel like I should take responsibility. It didn't take a psychologist to know that Jace had been heavily brainwashed by Dina. Despite multiple bad incidents, Jace refused to throw Dina out of his life. No matter how much she badmouthed me or Bella, Jace felt like he couldn't do anything. I almost didn't marry him because of Dina. But Jace's love for me made me forgive him. Mind you, I wasn't going to put up with Dina. I was simply trying to look for a chance to show Jace the truth. And, boy, I did get a chance. About 2 years after me and Jace got married, Jace became the CEO of a big company. With a huge part of his inheritance, he bought a lot of shares and got selected as the CEO by the board. It was an amazing day, and he excitedly told us this news. But we couldn't do much to celebrate. Jace was now working a lot to finalize everything and coming home super tired. It was one of those nights when Dina decided to make the most outrageous suggestion to Jace. When we were having dinner, she said, "Jace, I think it's time for you to take your life a little seriously. You know, make a few changes that suit your new status better." "Really? Like what, Dina? I think everything's quite perfect right now." "You're a CEO now, Jace. I think it's time you change a little. Improve yourself, you know. I think it will benefit you a lot." "What do you mean, Dina? I don't understand. What do I need to change?" "Maybe it's time you improve your life by changing a few people. I think you should find a better woman for yourself." At this point, I could feel myself getting pissed off. Dina had the audacity to sit in front of me and tell my own husband to get a better woman for himself. The audacity of the woman was astounding. She straight up told my husband to replace me. Jace was super surprised as well, but didn't say anything. But Dina decided to speak on and on about it. She said, "You know, when a man climbs the ranks at work, it is important for him to have a presentable family. If anyone appears to be out of place, people will question and judge him." That doesn't mean I need to change my freaking family members, Dina. This is an insane idea overall and not practical at all. Don't be dramatic, Jace. A lot of people upgrade their family when they get richer or have a higher status than before. It's a completely normal thing. I'm sure that you have heard about it. Your friend Ryan did it too. Let me tell you a little about Ryan. He is not that relevant to the story except in this place. Ryan divorced his first love and wife after he got a high-paying job. His own words were, "Why should I stay with her when I can marry an heiress?" Ryan was then promptly disowned by all his friends, including us. Now I know why Dina supported Ryan and asked Jace to reconnect with him even when he said no. Dina wanted Jace to follow Ryan's example and divorce me as well. But instead of saying that in words, she tried to be a little indirect. Somehow, her words didn't quite have the effect on Jace. He said, "You know that I hate Ryan now, Dina. None of our friends are in contact with him anymore." "Oh, that's because your stupid wife filled your head with stuff. Believe me, Jace, Ryan did the right thing. He knew what was best for him and his future. He followed his heart and he's happy now. Think about it, Jace. I really do want the best for you. Fine then, I'll think about it. Maybe I'll get a better woman for myself. Now, leave me alone and let me have my dinner in peace. I was a little stunned by Jace's words. Look, I trust my husband, but I also know that he doesn't just say anything to please people. He literally does what he says. He looked pretty irritated and had his food in silence. Meanwhile, Dina was smiling widely and casting me her signature smirks over her food. It was disgusting and it made my skin crawl. I could barely eat anything and didn't eat much of my food. Jace also didn't eat a lot and left for our room as soon as he could. Just when I was about to follow him, Dina caught my arm and laughed at me. She said, "What's the hurry, Kathy? You are desperate to beg Jace not to divorce you. Well, there is no use running after him, like he said. He might be looking for a new woman already. This makes you very happy, doesn't it, Dina? You think you had this extremely clever idea that would remove me from Jace's life, right?" "I did have the best idea, Kathy. He will divorce you and marry my niece, who is just perfect for him." "I knew it. This was your plan all along. You want your niece to take my place and you are willing to destroy my marriage for that. Hell, you don't even care about Jace's feelings." Now, Kathy, don't make me out to be the bad guy. I did warn you that Jace will drop you in an instant after he becomes the CEO. You are no match for such a big man. Plus, you don't deserve my ex-husband's assets. It should go to my family since I was his last wife. I may not have kids, but I love my niece like my own." Wow, Dina. Today you literally accepted that Jace means nothing to you. You only act lovingly towards him because you want him to share his money with your family. Bravo, Dina. I haven't met a worse woman than you. My niece has my blood, Kathy. Jace is only a stepson and nothing else. I don't care if he's happy with my niece. I just want her to enjoy all of Jace's assets. After they get married, it wouldn't even matter if Jace is happy. Even if he divorces her, she will take half his assets. It was slowly starting to make sense why Dina was so adamant about making me sign a prenup before marriage. She wasn't suspicious of me per se. She was just stopping me from getting what she had planned to keep for her niece. It was pathetic and downright disgusting. I seriously cringe and get nauseous when I think about her plan. At that time, her words hit me in the gut like a ton of bricks. Dina kept saying horrible things to me and dreaming about Jace's second marriage already. It was so disgusting and hurtful that I ran away crying. I was sitting in the garden crying when Jace approached me. He said, "Hey, Kathy, what's the matter? Why are you crying like this?" "You know why, Jace? Do you still have to ask?" "Dina's proposal hurt you, didn't it? She specifically targeted you today. It was bizarre." "Why did you agree with her then? Are you planning to divorce me and marry someone else?" "Dina told me that she plans to make you marry her niece." "What? Oh God, I should have seen this coming. This is why she has been so insistent about this get a better woman nonsense. This woman will never learn. And you, Kathy, do you really think I would divorce you? That's not possible." "Then why did you tell her that you will get a better woman?" "I wasn't thinking much, Kathy. I just wanted her off my back. I had a long day and Dina had the worst timing. I know it came off as me agreeing with her. It's not like that. I would never replace you, Kathy. You know that. You were the only one for me." Hearing Jace say those words really did wonders for my mood and self-confidence, and for a while Dina's words were really hurting me from the inside. I felt inadequate and inferior to her and her niece. Dina did have a way of getting under people's skin. She successfully did that with Jace for years and literally manipulated him into thinking she cared for him. When the hurt subsided in me, I was filled with anger. I knew that I had to do something, so I told Jace word to word the conversation I had with Dina when he left for our room. Jace listened to me carefully while getting visibly angrier every second. After I told him everything, he said, "I see that I made a big mistake by keeping her in my life and this house. I should have cut her off a long time ago. I should have done it when she tried to poison me against my mom." Bella has always been right about Dina. And Jace, Dina is a monster and a master manipulator. She literally broke up 18 years of marriage all by herself. God, I feel so stupid, Kathy. I ignored Mom, and I even ignored you when you guys tried to warn me. I even let Dina get away with insulting you guys for years. I should have stood up for you guys a long time ago. What have I done? It's easy to blame yourself now, Jace, but you were just trying to be a good stepson. I know you didn't want Dina kicked out since this was her marital home, and I know that you genuinely cared for her and thought she did too. But today, Dina proved to all of us what a snake she is. I want to dig a hole and bury myself. What do I do, Kathy? I'm done being nice to Dina. She's crossed all limits. We need to do something. It was then that I knew I needed to do something. Jace was finally seeing the light and willing to stand up for me, Bella and himself. Dina's golden days were about to be gone if I played my cards right. There was no way I would let Dina get away this time. She was going down once and for all. A plan was already in my head. So I said, maybe we should just listen to her and do what she says. What? Are you serious? What are you even talking about, Kathy? I am not freaking replacing you with her niece or anyone else for that matter. It won't be like that, Jace. Dina wanted you to get a better woman in your life, right? Do it then. Get a better woman. Then we will get our real revenge. Jace looked at me confused and asked me to explain myself. When I told him my entire plan, he was shocked and delighted. He didn't expect me to come up with such a simple and fast solution to our problem. But he wasn't surprised at all. I am a fast thinker, and that's what attracted him to me in the first place. I simply showed him another example of my sharp thinking. Jace was completely on board with the plan. It would be quick, and justice would be served pretty well. Dina didn't know what was coming for her. It took us 2 weeks to execute the plan completely. Within these 2 weeks, Dina never stopped bringing up the better woman theory. She grilled Jace every time she saw him. She did it with and without my presence. When he was gone for work, she didn't let the time go to waste. During this time, she made sure to tell me about all the bad days that were waiting for me. This ridiculous woman even had the audacity to invite her niece to tour the house when Jace was away. The two of them made some snarky comments about how the house would soon be theirs. But Jace and I didn't crack under pressure. We were prepared and had a strong plan in mind. While Jace was away for work, I completed all the formalities necessary to make our plan work. Together, me, Jace, and another important person made the plan happen. It was now showtime. It was one warm, sunny Sunday morning when Dina got the biggest shock of her life. When we were having breakfast, Dina was her usual self, pestering Jace to bring a new woman in. When we were about done, the doorbell rang. We had already heard a car pull up to the house. Dina got up to get the door, but was shocked when someone opened the lock and walked inside. It was none other than Bella, my true mother-in-law. Dina looked shocked and said, "What the hell, Bella? How did you get into the house like that? Did you steal the keys? I had no idea you were turning into a criminal. Oh my God, why did you bring so many boxes? What's going on?" "Who said I stole the keys? My one and only son gave me the keys to his house, and the boxes are here because my son wants me to stay at this house with him. That is impossible. You're lying. This can't be happening. I'm sure you're making up a story. Jace would never do that. Jace, tell me she's lying. Dina frantically looked at Jace, expecting him to parrot her thoughts and assumptions. She really thought that Jace was so under her control that he wouldn't do such a thing. Dina really expected Jace to put her above Bella, his own mother. So, when Jace confirmed her worst fears instead, she was shocked. Jace said, "Why would my mom lie to you, Dina? I called her to stay here and gave her the keys. She will be moving her stuff today itself. Mom will temporarily stay in the guest room till we get everything sorted." No, this can't be true. Why did you bring your mom into this house, Jace? You didn't even ask me or take my permission. Did Kathy make you do this? This must be her plan. She's mad because I asked you to replace her. Absolutely not, Dina. You asked me to get a better woman in my life, so I went to the most important woman in my life and asked her, how do I get a better woman in my life? Then I reminded him that his own mother has been living in a small house for many years. Due to someone's manipulative tactics here, Jace and his own mother grew apart. It was time he got rid of the bad mom and replaced her with his real mom. I suggested Bella come stay with us, and Jace agreed. Hearing this, Dina turned absolutely pale. She never thought that when she talked about replacing people in Jace's life, she would be the one to get replaced. It was hilarious to see the expression on her face change so quickly. And it was still changing. She now looked desperate and very upset. She said, "Jace, did you really just listen to these two nasty women and make your decision? You know very well that I wanted to replace Kathy. How did you end up trying to replace me?" "I'm not trying to replace you, Dina. I'm replacing you with the better woman that is my mother. You have no right to call Kathy and my mom nasty. If there is anyone who's been nasty, it's you. I know that you were using me to let your niece get all my property." It wasn't like that, Jace, I swear. I only wanted the best for you. Kathy and Bella are turning you against me. They are cheap and scheming people." "Don't you dare say those things again. My mom and my wife are the most loyal and caring people I know. They may not be rich, but their hearts are pure, unlike yours. They want the best for me while you just fake your love to take advantage of me. There is no use manipulating me anymore, Dina. I'm done with you. My lawyer will be here in a few minutes handing you an eviction notice. I want you out by the end of this month." Dina was super shocked when she heard this. She really didn't believe in her life that Jake would turn against her. It did make me wonder a little as to why she valued herself so much. I mean, it's natural for a man to choose his mom and wife over his bad stepmother. I guess Dina thought that since she came from a well-to-do family, Jace would keep her to maintain his reputation. Thankfully, Jace wasn't as shallow or prejudiced as her. When Dina realized that Jace was serious, she began to beg and plead with Jace to change his mind. She said, "Jace, why are you doing this, son? I know that I might have made you mad by suggesting that you change your wife, but believe me, I had your best interests at heart. Your mom is supporting Kathy because they want to mooch off of you." "Oh, really, Dina? They are my blood family, and it's natural for them to depend on me. Plus, both Mom and Kathy have their own jobs. They don't need me to support them. You are the only one who doesn't have a job and depends on me completely." "Jace, how can you say that to me? I loved you like my own son, and now you are comparing me with your blood family?" "Absolutely not, Dina. I know why you acted like you cared about me. You wanted your niece to marry me and have your blood family to get my father's assets. You didn't think I would find out." At this point, Dina knew that all of her secrets had been revealed. She had no way of defending herself anymore. Jace wasn't that stupid. Now that he knew the truth, he didn't feel any guilt in kicking Dina out. Also, it was at this point that we realized why Jace's father didn't leave Dina much. He knew that she would trample Jace and leave him to fend for himself. Jace's father wasn't a good man, but he loved his son. Dina did everything possible to change Jace's mind. Bella had already moved into the house and was staying in the guest room. Me, Bella, and Jace were all thinking about modifying Dina's room to make it better for Bella. Dina couldn't stand these discussions. She didn't like the fact that we were doing exactly what she did to us for all these years. She cried every day and begged Jace to give her another chance. When the month was up, Dina refused to move, so Jace's lawyer was called up, who explained to Dina the legal implications if she didn't move out before we went to court. That scared her, and she moved in with her niece. A few days passed, and surprise, surprise, her niece kicked her out too. I mean, Dina literally didn't have much anymore. When her niece realized that she couldn't get anything from her, she kicked Dina out. She was back at our door, begging and pleading. This time, she was desperate, so she begged and asked me for forgiveness too. I ignored her and shut the door in her face. There was no way I would ever let her into my life again. Jace didn't even want to look at her. He was finally happy having Dina's toxic presence out of his life. Dina couch surfed at a lot of places until she was forced to find work. I guess she's now working as a babysitter, but isn't doing very well. Gone are her days of glamour, and now she dresses plainly and lives like the people she had insulted in her life. It has now been 6 months, and I can say for sure karma has been served to my horrible stepmother-in-law.